If gas prices are reaching a record high, why are oil companies going bankrupt, notwithstanding the profit prospects? Not only in the United States, but in almost every country, high gas prices are hinting toward another energy crisis. And this is what makes us question about why are the big oil companies not stepping in and taking control of the high gas prices? Can they do so? Well, the answer is yes. But why aren't they doing so? And why are they going bankrupt even if they can avoid it? This is what we're going to talk about today in this video on oil companies going bankrupt even with higher gas prices. This is something the oil companies can avoid and also can offer low-price gas to consumers, but they're not doing so. Let's find out why. Oil and gas are connected when it comes to prices. There is a relationship between oil and gas prices that's been there since 2008. Oil prices fluctuate every day, depending upon global production and demand. The international oil market sets the price, which varies throughout the day. This makes gas prices susceptible to the ever-changing oil prices. Hence, if the oil prices are high, gas prices will also increase, since roughly 50% of the gas price depends upon the oil price. The rest of the gas price depends upon drilling cost, production, machinery, and supply. Therefore, if somehow the crude oil supply is increased, gas prices will come down. The reason for that is, when the oil supply increases, keeping the demands constant, the prices of oil decrease. And hence, since oil prices decreasing, gas prices, which are set seeing the oil prices, also decrease. But what's happening at this moment? Ignoring the oil prices for a moment, gas prices are going to record highs. This is due to global reasons, including the Russia-Ukraine war crisis. Countries need energy that comes from oil and gas. However, one of the major oil and gas producers has engaged in a war. This makes energy the most valuable commodity of the present, and this is why the gas price is increasing every day. Russia supplies gas to the whole of Europe, mainly from Ukraine, Belarus, and through the Baltic Sea to Germany directly. This gas supply is the very reason why industries in Europe run, and homes of millions of Europeans are kept warm on winter nights. However, now Russia is decreasing the supply, which is making gas a valuable commodity. This is one of the reasons why gas price is so high. But if oil supply and price can affect gas prices directly, why are oil companies not stepping in? Furthermore, the high gas price should give an incentive to oil companies to increase production. Why aren't they doing so? There are some insider reasons behind this. This is simple. If more oil is pumped out, gas prices will decrease. However, oil companies aren't increasing drilling to pump more crude oil. This not only is increasing gas prices further, but making many oil companies go bankrupt. This takes us back to the 2020 oil market crash, when the oil prices went below zero. This was the time when major oil-producing countries were in precarious conditions. However, the underlying formidable threat was upon the publicly invested oil companies. This was the time when several oil companies went bankrupt. Precisely, according to Haynes and Boone, a firm that tracks bankruptcies, 107 oil and gas companies bankrupted in 2020. Among them, 46 were exploration and production companies, while 61 were oil field companies. According to Haynes and Boone, since 2015, more than 500 oil and gas companies have gone bankrupt in North America alone. And this oil market crash of 2020 had a lingering effect, not only on demands, but also on investors' trust. Not only the demands were crushed, but also investors were demanding dividends and paybacks from oil companies. All of this put some of the major oil exploration and production companies in the corner, and quite near to declaring bankruptcy. In 2020, 46 companies were focusing on exploration. However, they couldn't find any suitable sites where oil could be extracted from. This made the investors reluctant to invest in those oil firms that focused mainly on exploration and increasing the supply. Oil companies want to increase their production, but they, inevitably, cannot, due to the pressure from investors. If the oil supply is increased, not only oil companies could avoid bankruptcies, but also gas prices will decline. But investors just don't want to give liberties to the companies that will engage in an exploration that they consider futile. Investors are pushing oil companies to the wall since they want to get dividends. And since companies have to pay dividends, there isn't any capital left to be invested in increasing oil production and exploration. Hence, the reason behind these bankruptcies is Oil companies don't have the capital to spend on exploration. They're made to pay their investors through dividends. Wall Street ensures this, and oil companies just don't get the liberty to use the capital without taking investors into confidence. Investors want companies to offer dividends and paybacks, not invest in increasing the supply of oil. This is keeping the prices of gas high on one hand and pushing oil companies toward bankruptcies on the other hand, whether they want it or not. However, there is a solution for that. If oil companies want to increase supply by increasing capital spending on exploration, they have to buy back their shares. They cannot, today, act on their own, since they're publicly traded companies. However, if they procure a major section of the shares, they can make healthy decisions, like investing in exploration. But to do so, they have to put aside a major section of their profits, which is quite tougher in practice than in theory. However, there are some oil companies that are trying to follow this. This is what Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, said. He pointed out what oil companies were trying to do and said they're not using the money for domestic energy production. They're using it for stock buybacks. They're using it to make their shares go up. This also seemed to manifest when major oil companies announced their plans for the buyback. Exxon made it clear that it wants to increase buyback and triple it. The company said that it intends to spend almost $30 billion on buybacks until 2024. Chevron, another oil giant, said that it will spend $10 billion on buyback. Buyback is actually buying the shares of a company by the company itself. In this way, the companies procure more shares and have the liberty to make decisions without taking the individual investors into confidence. Also, this skyrockets stock price as well. There is another reason as well, which almost kills the incentive of increasing the oil supply. It's the ever-looming fear of another oil market crash. During COVID in 2020, the oil market crashed, taking oil prices below zero. At this moment, several oil company CEOs think that if the oil supply is increased quickly, the demands might not keep up the balance. And hence, when there will be less demand but more supply, history can repeat itself, and situations like that of 2020 can occur. Hence, since companies are purposely not increasing their supply while paying their investors as well, they are going bankrupt. Jason Bordoff, the founding director of the Center on Global Energy Policy at Columbia University, said, "Many oil industry CEOs think that if they grow production quickly, they're going to get penalized, not rewarded." He continued and said, "Energy companies lost a great deal of money for a decade by expanding in shale oil. Investors have been telling CEOs that they don't want to repeat that performance. This is why both the oil companies and investors are wiping out the possibility of increasing oil supply by increasing oil exploration. This fear is not only increasing the gas prices, but also dropping the normal oil supply. If this continues, demand for oil itself will outpace the supply in the future." One oil executive in the Dallas Fed survey said that the United States, at least, needs to raise oil production by 2 million barrels per day in 2023. This needs to be done if a balance between global supply and demand is in question. Did you know that oil companies themselves will limit the supply that might bring them near bankruptcy? What will happen if this continues? Comment your opinion in the comment section right below. If you loved the video, consider giving it a like. And to watch more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Until the next video, stay tuned.